watching us from across South Africa and also a number of countries, particularly in the SADC region. And I guess with the energy mix, this is a conversation that you're interested in beyond our borders as well. We share our energy, we import, export, so we'll be chatting a little bit about that. But as you heard from Valen, energy kind of makes the world go round. We can't do anything without energy. And so this is an important conversation that we need to be having. And to help us unpack some of those issues around energy, whether it's electricity, liquid fuels, nuclear, you name it, whatever source of energy that you're using and need, we can unpack today. So let's introduce our panel, and we begin with the Minister of Energy, Mr. Dikobe Ben Martins. Minister, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to the program. Always a pleasure to have you.
Good morning, sir, and very good morning to the viewers.
And sitting next to you is the CEO of the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, that's NERSA, Ms. Phindile Baleni. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the viewers at home.
All right, and Minister Martins has come with his A-team. He's got the Deputy DG Policy and Planning, Mr. Ompi Aphane. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to you as well.
Good morning.
All right, okay. Well, let's start this conversation. Minister, you've been in this new portfolio for a little bit of time now. What would you say are the big issues that are sitting at your desk right now that you need to be taking cognizance of for the country?
By way of introductory remarks, I would like to make three fundamental points. The first being that in less than 20 years, the ANC-led democratic government has provided access to electricity to more than 5.8 million poor households. The second point I would like to highlight is the fact that the energy rollout program that's rolled out by Eskom and municipalities has reduced the lack of access to electricity by 14%. There's only 14% of South Africans that still lack access to electricity. The other last introductory remark that I would like to make to highlight is the fact that when the ANC came to power in South Africa in 1994, 34% of South Africans had access to electricity. Today, less than 20 years later, 86% of South Africans have got access to electricity. The fact of the matter is that in 20 years, the current ANC-led government has achieved what the apartheid government and colonial governments could not achieve in 100 years. You commenced by asking what's the predominant issue that's on the desk of the Ministry of Energy. The ministry being comprised of the office of the minister and also the deputy minister. The issue that's pertinent and keeps us up at night is energy security in South Africa. In order to deal with this particular issue that's a challenge presently, there's an interdepartmental body that's looking ahead as to how we seek to address this. It involves the Department of Energy, the Department of Public Enterprises, it involves National Treasury, it also involves the Department of Trade and Industry and other sister departments. What we seek to do is to obviate the challenge that we had a couple of weeks ago. In the remit of our responsibility, we are ensuring that as winter approaches, we will not have blackouts. In order to deal with that situation, we are ensuring that the maintenance that Eskom carries out should be reduced as much as possible so that all our power stations can remain in commission. The other measure that we are also taking is to ensure that over the winter period, we ensure that South Africa has a sufficient supply of liquefied gas. We are ensuring that we import a huge quantity of liquefied gas from our neighbors like Mozambique. And there are other measures that we are currently busy with in order to ensure that we do keep the lights on. But the important component of that is also to garner support for the programs that have been driven by the sister department, namely public enterprises, for us all to carry out the 49 million campaign to ensure that we also save energy. We switch off lights that we don't need and all the other measures that the Department of Public Enterprises and other departments are encouraging us to do, which we as ordinary South Africans can all do.
All right, so
Thank you,
there's
sir.
quite a lot to unpack and sort of probe a little bit further on. But let me turn to the CEO at NERSA, Ms. Baleni. I guess for our viewers, they hear this name NERSA quite a bit. What's the role of the National Energy Regulator in South Africa? What do you do?
Thank you. The National Energy Regulator in South Africa was set up to regulate the full value chain of the electricity industry, petroleum pipelines, as well as piped gas. In our regulation, we set and approve prices and tariffs. We set license conditions to ensure and assure quality of supply. We also monitor compliance, and this we do in order to ensure socio-economic growth and the growth of the economy of the country in general.
So if people are complaining about high prices, it's your fault.
It's our job.
Okay, next to you is Deputy DG, Planning, Policy, and also Clean Energy, I think is one of your portfolios that you handle, Mr. Aphane. What's the big thing for you? I mean, I've sort of tagged on to the last bit, clean energy, and we not really, most people would say, especially organizations like Greenpeace, will say that we're busy marching down the dirty energy route at the moment. Is that a fair comment?
Well, I suppose so. Once the minister has, set the tone and, prescribed what needs to be done, we take it from there, literally. It's to put our activities into context, for example, that we're responsible for making sure that government does have the necessary plans in place in order to be responsive to the problems at hand. To give an example, between 2005 and 2008, we had shortages of liquid fuels, we had electricity disruptions, and that was a wake-up call for us, really, to say that how does government not only put plans in place, but coordinate and align those plans? It's more the integration, as Minister indicated, working together within the government system, working together with other stakeholders to make sure that we're able to respond to the energy security problem at hand.
Okay. Minister, I'm not sure which comes first, the chicken or the egg in this scenario. We need energy to grow the economy, but our economy can't grow without the energy. So in some ways, the lights haven't gone out, partly, I guess, because the world's economy didn't do well. So we were quite lucky that we weren't growing at the rates that we wanted to grow. Had we been growing at those rates, we would have had an even bigger backlog. So where are we in terms of, is it the provision of energy that's holding us back? Because the world's economies are starting to come out. Will we have enough energy as the economies start to kick in?
If I may, according to biology, the cell comes first, so the egg comes before the chicken. But with reference to the issue that you have foregrounded, there is the world situation, but there's the reality that the South African economy is also growing by leaps and bounds. The responsibility of the Department of Energy is to ensure that there are policies in place that mitigates the growth in our economy. What we have also realized is that in South Africa, the major issue is not distribution, but the major issue has also been the equipment that we have at municipal level. A lot of our equipment has aged, which needs to be replaced. A couple of weeks ago in Richards Bay, the lights at the harbor, there were difficulties at the harbor, simply because of the age of the equipment that they have. So there is planning to ensure that at all tiers of government, there should be the requisite money to ensure that power stations remain in good shape, and also at local government level, that the equipment that is used to distribute is fit and proper for that purpose.
Could the government have done better in planning for the stage that we're in now in our country's growth? You talk about repairs and maintenance and things like that. These things should have been foreseen, surely.
There's always a need to plan, but the nature of the infrastructure planning, the horizon is a very broad one. You don't only plan for the next 20 years, but responsible planning presupposes that you look at the profile of the country for 50, for 100 years. Unfortunately, the background that we come from, without belaboring the point of apartheid, but the reality is that the infrastructure planning, spatial planning of cities in this country, towns, everything was planned with the view of a minority government, so that infrastructure development in the rest of the country has not been what it should be. The challenge that we have as the government presently is to ensure that development of infrastructure is countrywide based, not only in the Golden Triangle of Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. So it means that with the rollout of the alternative energy program, you'd find that a lot of wind farms, solar farms are in the Eastern Cape, the Western Cape, and the Northern Cape. Previously, those were areas that did not have access to a high rate of industrialization. But with the rollout of the alternative energy, there is greater economic development in those particular provinces that have a rural orientation. So the intention is to ensure that there's requisite infrastructure based on the characteristics of each and every province.
Okay. Deputy DG, we have an energy deficit, it's clear. What do we need to do urgently to make sure that we get the energy that we require? I guess we need to relook our energy mix. What things do we need to fast forward very quickly? We know Medupe and all these other coal-fired plants are online or are being built. But there's these other areas as well, Renewable Energy Minister's been talking about. What do we need to do urgently, and have we got time?
There are lots of things that we could do, starting with those that are within our control. I mean, the viewer at home is well aware of the need for saving energy, given the impact on both the electricity grid, but also from a liquid fuels perspective. So basically what you need to do is to change your behavior in the house, in the office, and elsewhere. Switch off your air conditioner when you don't necessarily need it because you're going home. Switch off your lights when you leave the room, etc. So those are some of the demand side interventions that are immediate, that are very cheap to effect, and that are within our control. So that's the starting point. Let's change our behavior. And then there's certain things that we can also do, or that we're also doing on the supply side, which is increase supply. Those take time, but there are certain short-term interventions that could also be brought to bear. A number of these include, for example, making sure that, as we go into the winter, like Minister has indicated, we increase, all the options that are available for our supply side interventions, burn more gas from neighboring countries because it's available and it's cheaper than running diesel. All of those kind of things. Fix the power stations, make sure that we defer some of the maintenance that had been planned by Eskom over the winter period. So there's a lot that could be done. But I think, essentially, there is a lot that the viewer and, the audience in this room can do.
And also, I guess, you guys, because policy clarity is quite important. And people need to know what the game is, where we are, and I suppose, NERSA, this is one area that you get involved as well.
We do play a role in contributing to regulatory certainty, which becomes very important when private sector investors consider to invest in any markets. And to that end, we have established and approved methodologies and rules that guide how we take decisions. The requirements are quite clear. For instance, with the renewable independent power producer program, we were able not only to take the decisions that were requisite, but we did that in a lesser time than stipulated in the laws. And all of this to ensure that that power got onto the grid as quickly as is possible.
All right, okay. It's a great point to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll start unpacking all the stuff that's of concern to you, fuel prices, whatever you name it, shale gas. Nuclear energy as well is another big thing that we need to chat about. So when we come back, we'll start getting your questions at home and also questions from the floor. As I said, energy is a huge area, so let's discuss it all. And that's all coming up after this break, so stay with us.